Greetings and welcome to session 1 of the Conceal Cary classroom for the North Carolina Conceal Cary licensing process. My name is First Sergeant Ted B. Williams. Introduce myself to you because I'll be your instructor. My background includes 22 years of military service, retired disabled veteran, also 12 years with the Department of Corrections. While I was there, I made the rank of sergeant, and I also was certified in 1996 in Department of Corrections as a firearms instructor, defensive tactics instructor, baton instructor, and also worked with the gang task force. I really enjoyed my career. After that, I went to the Nash County Sheriff's Office. I was there for about 12 and a half years, made the rank of first sergeant there. I went back to be certified as a firearms instructor for law enforcement under the sheriff standards and law enforcement training association through Salemburg, North Carolina. Also a background in martial arts. I was a heavyweight fighter in the military, boxing, state champion, 1 year in Georgia, runner-up in Florida and North Carolina for several years. Just to give you a background, not to impress you, but to add credibility to what I'm telling you. And the motivation is this. Thanks for getting qualified to be a responsible handgun owner. This is a very friendly gun state so far, and the thing about it is this: when you buy a gun, there's a lot of responsibility and liability associated with that. By having knowledge and being trained, you'll lessen your chance of a liability issue once you use your weapon to defend yourself or your loved ones. We hope you never have to, but you need to be trained in how to do that. What to expect in this class. First of all, my class is not done like any other class you've probably ever been associated with. I don't claim to be like anybody else, so I think you'll find it refreshing. So relax, get comfortable wherever you are. Get ready to have your note-taking device with you to make notes that you can bring up once we have our live session to answer your questions. We want you to ask questions. That's how learning takes place. But I warn you, I'm brutally honest. I'm brutally honest. I also believe in talking to adults in adult language. I do not use profanity or anything like that, but I don't mince words. I'm very honest. So I also come from a Christian perspective. I say that because we're talking about the use of deadly force, and I want to get this out of the way up front. Deadly force is also something that the Bible also addresses. I want to get that clear. I know the Bible says, thou shalt not kill. In my business card, I have a Bible verse from Matthew 5. It says this: blessed are the peacemakers. Our job is to be peacemakers that we call the children of God. But also in Ecclesiastes, it also states, to everything there's a season and a time and every purpose under the heaven. And that includes a time to kill. All killing is not murder. There are justifiable homicides in the Bible, also in the laws of our land. Every time a life is taken, let's hope it's legitimate and it's the last resort, but there are justifiable homicides. And we're going to talk to you to make sure that if anything happens on your behalf, that you can protect your loved ones and then survive the legal ramifications of having to use your weapons to defend yourself. Also, too, I may address some things with some racial overtones to it and political overtones. I do not endorse one party over another. I don't make that an issue. I want you to feel comfortable with that, but there's a time to mention race in this classroom. Now, as far as an overview, what can you expect today? You can expect in this first session, we're going to begin talking about all of the main points required by the state of North Carolina for you to be certified to carry a weapon concealed. The main points you will cover during all the sessions will include, first of all, legal issues. We must cover legal issues, at least 2 hours of legal issues, so that you know how to conduct yourself, how to survive the question that will be asked after a use of force, and to survive the questioning period for that, how to report your incident, and how to use the right wording, and to seek attorney and legal advice before making any written or verbal statements after an incident. Also, we're going to talk about handgun safety. All important. We will stress safety from point 1 to the end of this class, especially on the range. We will stress safety starting now. It's very important. We're going to talk about handguns, makes, models, calibers of handguns, how you can choose the right handgun suited for you. Bigger is not always better. We will talk about those things with you. We'll talk about marksmanship fundamentals. Again, everything we do is fundamentally because once you leave this class, you're not ready for a gunfight. This is just an introduction. You need further training to be proficient with your weapon. You need repetition over a period of time to become proficient. but I want you motivated and encouraged that you're going to do very well in this class and leave you with some skills you can use in a real situation. We'll look at carrying concealed and safety issues while carrying concealed. And of course, concealed means the weapon is not visible. It's not visible to the public or to law enforcement. Because of that, there's certain things you must be aware of. How to dress, what type of holster to wear, that's going to be up to you. It's a matter of personal preference. You may want to carry on the body, off the body, cross draw, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, kidney draw, right in the middle of your pelvis, middle of your back, ankle holsters, thigh holsters, belly bands, all kinds of things you can use, and also very stylish handbags, color-coded and everything else, if you're into that. Presentation techniques, how to draw from concealment, several ways to do that. You must practice that to be proficient with that and to be flawless in case you need to do that. Also, how to clean and maintain your weapon. You must have the weapon clean and in good maintenance in order for it to serve you very well. Then also ammunition, how to choose the right ammunition. Not only the caliber, make, and model, but also how about the bullet itself. We're going to look at full metal jackets versus hollow points versus other types of bullets that are used for critical defense. There are many rounds on the market created for specific purposes. We're talking how to choose the one that's suited for you. Also, proficiency drills. You'll get the chance to actually put this stuff into practice on the range under the guidance of me and my instructor staff safely, so you can actually learn to draw your weapon, fire your weapon, get used to the recoil, the sound, and also put those marksmanship skills to work. Now, I want to talk about certain main points that I'm going to talk about these things out of sequence. I may mention them again in the context of the lesson that you need to be aware of. These are some points here now that I usually stress for those who have not taken a concealed carry class. I have these items on a sheet of paper or a memo that I have in most of the gun shops in this area. It's entitled Responsible Handgun Ownership. This is to be given to people when they first purchase a firearm. When you purchase a firearm in North Carolina, they will make sure that you're being told how you must keep that weapon out of the hands of a minor and what the consequences are of your weapon getting into the hands of a minor. You are violating the law. But also, not on top of that, they don't tell you really how to transport your weapon. And several of my students have been in trouble for transporting their weapons illegally, not knowing they were doing so. So my intention is to inform the public so they can transport their weapons safely until they come to a class. Now, North Carolina is an open carry state. What does that mean? In North Carolina, if you're 18 years old, you're not a convicted violent felon, you don't have any mental health issue that forbids you to do so, you can carry a firearm, open carry, anywhere that's not forbidden by statute or posted. Again, if you're 18 years old, you can carry a firearm. There's no license process for that. There's no such thing as an open carry license. North Carolina grants every citizen the right to do that if you're 18 years old, again, not mentally impaired or a violent felon. Also, North Carolina, though you can carry it. Now, what is the deadly force laws in North Carolina? North Carolina is a retreat state. We are a retreat state. What does that mean? That means that you have a duty to retreat in the face of an encounter if you can do so safely. Now, we have a stipulation now and a provision to where we lift that retreat requirement on what we call the Castle Doctrine. And what that is boiled down to this. In your home, in your vehicle, in your place of business, you do not have a duty to retreat in those areas anymore after 2013, after the gun laws were changed in 2013. In those areas, you don't have a duty to retreat. I would still say to you, still in those areas, make sure that using deadly force is a last resort. If you can retreat without using deadly force safely, I would advise you to retreat. If you cannot retreat, you do whatever you have to do, up and including deadly force. Now, also there's a thing called reciprocity. It's a big word, but in simple terms, all it is this. In North Carolina, we are a very generous state for gun laws thus far. If you have a concealed carry permit from any of the 50 states, you can also carry in North Carolina with that current concealed carry license. Now, along with that, other states recognize our licenses also. There, at this time, 38 states have recognized North Carolina's concealed carry license. Well, how do you find out what they are? You can go online, North Carolina handgun laws, and they will give you a reciprocity map. and print off for you the list of the states that you can carry in with your North Carolina concealed carry license, and give you a map showing you what those states are. And this does change periodically, so stay abreast of your North Carolina laws. As a matter of fact, write down that reference for North Carolina handgun laws. You can Google it. That's your Bible. That's your reference for these law changes. When the laws change, that website will change. And stay abreast of it, because once you take the class, there's no requirement to take this class ever again. But you're being negligent if you don't go back to yourself and review these laws, because these laws are very delicate. They're very technical and very detailed. You can't memorize it. Go back and read these laws and digest them fully. Also, along with that, in 2013, reciprocity was brought about. Now, also warning shots. Warning shot in North Carolina, let me say this very clearly and listen. Also, to you sitting there, I'm watching you right now, some of you all would say, I would fire a warning shot. Somebody's on my property, stealing my car, my lawnmower, my motorcycle. I'm going to fire a warning shot and get them off my property. If you do so, you just violated the law. You just created a criminal act by firing your firearm. Warning shots are totally illegal in North Carolina. Why is that? Because when you fire your weapon, you're to fire at an imminent threat. When you fire at a warning shot, where's it fired at? In the air, on the ground, around you. That round is going somewhere and poses a threat to somebody, and you're responsible for that round till it reaches its terminal velocity. So, warning shots are totally illegal. As a matter of fact, on top of that, you fire a warning shot inside an occupied dwelling after 2013, you just committed a felony for which the judge will sentence you to 20 years, have no discretion about it, and no choice about it. It is a mandatory sentence of 20 years. You fire a warning shot inside an occupied dwelling. Because you fire the round up, you endanger those above you. You fire the round down, you endanger those below you. You fire it on a level, you endanger those all around you, because rounds have not only velocity, they got penetration also. They over-penetrate. They may go through the walls of your house, endanger innocent people. We don't want you doing that. Also, if you live in the city of some cities, like our city here, has a shot detector system. You fire a shot inside the city limits, the shot detector system using towers will triangulate where that shot originated. It will notify the police department automatically. It will also dispatch them to that location to find out who originated that shot. Also, after 2013, there was a new law that at that time he was the Attorney General, but now the Governor, Roy Cooper, called a furtive motion law. I can demonstrate this to you. If you're sitting there, if you have your, if I can have you reach in your pocket to get your driver's license, I want you to look at it real quick. Everybody reach for your pocket and get your driver's license. If you have your driver's license, I want you to point it toward me and hold it up. I hope you've all done that. If you've done that, all of you may have gotten shot and killed in an encounter with law enforcement. You just committed a furtive motion act. Before you reach for anything in the presence of an officer, you are supposed to telegraph, ask permission to make any motion to reach for anything in the presence of an officer. Again, be very professional, be very conscious of what you're doing. Do not do anything to cause an officer to feel that his life's in danger, or they have deadly force used against you. Again, when you reach for any weapon on your body or your wallet, ask permission. So officer, let them know where it is. It's on my right rear side, in my front pocket, in my handbag. May I reach for it? And they say, yes, I'm reaching for it now, officer. Once you get it in your hands, do not come out of the purse or your pocket with it directly and point it at the officer. Come out of your pocket low and deliberate. So I'm taking it out now, officer. You hold it low and point it toward him slowly. Because do people carry handguns in their pockets? Absolutely. Do they carry handguns in their purses? Absolutely. So don't reach in your purse, come up with anything and point it at a police officer. Because people have handgun disguised as almost anything. There are cell phone handguns. Do not put an officer in that position. If you will follow these instructions, be courteous. Always also follow all the instructions of law enforcement. The sooner they feel safe, the safer you're going to be. Respect the authority of the officer. Let them be in charge of the scene. Do not be disrespectful, and we can avoid a lot of incidents. Also, there's an accessibility feature in the law now since 2013. What does that mean? If a weapon is anywhere accessible to you and not in plain view, you just committed a violation of the concealed carry laws. I've had 12 students so far who had their weapons either in the floor of the car, in the passenger seat of the car, and they were approached by law enforcement, and they told the officer that I have a weapon in the car, it's in the floor, in my pocketbook, or it's on the seat, in a box, or in a gun holster, or a zipper case, and they were charged with a concealed carry charge. Now, because of this, when you learn the North Carolina laws, also check with your local municipality. Now, this class is going all over this state. Local municipalities can have laws that amend the laws of the state. You must know the laws of your local municipality, your local county, or your local city ordinances that cover gun laws also. State law says that in North Carolina, when they stop you, for law enforcement stops you, you should roll your driver's side window halfway down so you can talk to the officer. Now, in Nash County, they want the window all the way down. The reason for that is this. You have one of these pickup trucks with your high mud grip tires on it, a 12-inch lift kit on it, and tinted windows. You roll the window halfway down, the officer still cannot see your hands. That's a very unsafe situation. They're going to ask you to roll your window all the way down. When they do not argue with them. Do so immediately. That is a local ordinance to have it rolled all the way down. Also, in Nash County, the only place your weapon can be, if you don't have a concealed carry license, when the officer gets to your vehicle, is on your dashboard. Let me say it again. The only place your weapon can be, if you don't have a concealed carry license, is on your dashboard. If you have a concealed carry license, do not try to produce the weapon. Leave it wherever it is, but you are by law required to tell the officer that you are armed, you do have a concealed carry license, and most officers will feel very appreciative for you doing that, and you will see a courteous officer. Thank you for doing so. Also, on the accessibility, make sure that your weapon is not accessible to unauthorized personnel, minors, but also convicted felons who can't be around handguns. If your handgun is in your car, you got a convicted felon in your car, make sure that they cannot reach your handgun, or you could be charged with making a weapon accessible to a convicted felon, or they can get in trouble also for having access to a weapon when they're not supposed to have access to a weapon. With those things out of the way, we're going to move right now into the actual PowerPoint for the lesson. But remember those things I've just told you. Now, I will have a slide up here that says this. In July 1995, the North Carolina General Assembly enacted a concealed carry handgun qualifying citizens to carry a weapon concealed. And I will not read each one of these verbatim. I'll tell you the gist of what's on these slides. And this law allows for a person to take a course. It is a 8-hour course. 8-hour course. You got to be 21 years old to take this course. And it must be an 8-hour course. Include 4 hours of classroom, 2 hours of legal. Then you must take a written test. I have a written test that you will take after you finish this portion of it by scheduling that on the website to come to in person to take the written test and your practical. So we would do that. Then you would take your practical. In the practical, the state requires you to fire at least 30 rounds, 10 rounds from the 3-yard lines, 10 rounds from the 5-yard line, and 10 rounds from the 7-yard line. And you will do that, and you will do that successfully. I guarantee you, you're going to do very well. Do not worry about that. Now, on some legal issues, there's a thing called common law. Now, common laws are not necessarily formalized laws, but they can be very binding. Common laws are laws that people just live by as a civilized society. You have to have rules and laws to govern a civilized people. Now, under your common laws, there's a thing called justified self-defense, the North Carolina legal laws. Justified self-defense. And the statement in there is this: a citizen is legally justified in using deadly force against another if and only if they're going to give you 4 conditions that must be present to use deadly force. I'm telling you this because you may not memorize these verbatim, but go to the website I've given you and go and that website in North Carolina Concealed Carry Laws and write these things down and memorize these, because under duress, you must make sure these things are in place to justify using deadly force. You use deadly force, anytime you fire a weapon, it is deadly force. Just that simple. Now, and they're going to scrutinize what you did to see if it was legal by these standards. This is an acid test right here. So you're legally justified in using deadly force against another if and only if. So this says that if either one of these conditions are not present, your use of force was illegal. The first one is item A. The citizen actually believes deadly force is necessary to prevent an imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. Let's talk about that a little bit. The citizen, put your name in that place. John, Susan, Mary, whatever your name is. You're legally justified in using force only if these things are present here. So you think that deadly force is necessary, that's your belief. And believe it or not, that's a very personal belief. Why do I say that? Because with my training and my size, I may feel that I can handle this suspect without using deadly force. If I am a 85-year-old lady with osteoporosis, emphysema, and arthritis, I may not feel like I can tackle this person and handle a male suspect who's trying to assault me. So, by virtue of that, I may come to the conclusion that this is a deadly force encounter. I must use deadly force to keep myself from being seriously injured, killed, or sexually assaulted. So, it is a very personal belief. But the average person, and whether it's stated or not, it's always implied a reasonable person. If what you did was reasonable, you're probably going to be legal. If it was not reasonable, it probably will not be legal. So, you actually believe deadly force is necessary. Now, your beliefs can be sometimes tainted with what? Your values, your background, your mental state. These things can taint your values. Your prejudices can taint your values. Just because you believe it does not make it legally binding. Let's make that clear. Some folks got the idea that because I thought I was under attack, I felt out in danger of my life, I used deadly force. That's a weak excuse, people. It will not stand up in a court of law. Now, you believe deadly force is necessary to prevent an imminent threat. It's got to be preventive. It cannot be after the fact. Somebody broke into my house, robbed me, raped my wife, or whatever they did, and got away with it, and I saw them in Walmart's parking lot tomorrow. I can't use deadly force against them at that time because there's no more imminent threat. That's when law enforcement comes into play, people. Do not try to do law enforcement's job. Let them do their job. Call them, let them handle it. Do not try to be a vigilante, get yourself in trouble or in prison. So it's got to be an imminent threat. What does imminent mean? Imminent is very, very, very important here. They're going to say, what is an imminent threat? Imminent just means this very simply. The person had the ability, the means, and the intention of hurting you based on everything you knew at that time. The ability, the means, the intention to hurt you, and everything that you saw at that time. Demonstrate this. If a dog is about to bite you, he usually telegraphs that intent. By what? He'll growl. He may have his hair on his back of his head to stand back up. He may bark. He may show you his teeth. He may scratch the ground. He may urinate on 2 trees and 4 car tires. He's showing aggression. All right? And people demonstrate those same type behaviors, maybe not that graphic, hopefully, but they will demonstrate behavior that you know that they are planning to assault you or hurt you and telegraphing their intent. So there's got to be an imminent threat of what? We know what causes death. Anything a gun or a knife, it's a deadly implement. It can cause death. It doesn't have to be a gun or a knife designed for that purpose. What makes it a deadly weapon is how they intend to use it. If I have a screwdriver, I'm going to hurt you with it. It's a deadly weapon, folks. If I have a fire extinguisher, I'm going to bash your brains in. It's a deadly weapon. If I have no weapons at all, my size 13 shoes, stomping you in the head is a deadly weapon, folks. If I'm choking you with my bare hands, I'm using deadly force against you. Anything that can hinder your human life or cause serious bodily harm, which is a felonious assault, is a reason to use deadly force. Now, let me say this. You do not have to wait to have deadly force written to you or to be injured seriously to use deadly force. If the force is imminent, about to happen, you can preempt that by using force yourself and be able to articulate why you did that in a court of law. So, great bodily harm. What's great bodily harm? Broken bones. It can be anything from bruises, contusions, a loss of limbs, loss of use of your limbs, prolonged suffering. Those type things are what we call great bodily harm. Or, let's say sexual assaults. Sexual assault is a very specialized one, and I want you to really understand this one. Every sexual assault does not warrant the use of deadly force. The only sexual assault that warrants deadly force is rape. What is rape? Rape implies the penetration or somebody trying to penetrate your body in some way or fashion. Any orifice, doesn't matter what you penetrate with, it is called rape. And you can use deadly force to prevent being raped. Now, a sexual assault maybe be touching you on the rear end, touching you on the breast, those kind of things. It's a sexual assault, but there's no chance of rape in a crowd like that. You can't just shoot someone for touching you away like that. It's unwanted, it's not nice, it's illegal, but it does not warrant deadly force. Make that clear. Now, if you're alone and you are a woman, a female, let me say this up front also. If you are a female in North Carolina, you can really come to the conclusion to use deadly force before a male can because of your gender. There's a great disparity in size and strength in a male and female under the law. And so females don't have the upper body strength a man has normally, so they can come to that conclusion before a male can. Now let me say this, are there females who can whoop males? Absolutely. I know some, I won't call their names. Some of y'all probably sitting beside some, so don't look around you or make any hunches or eyeballs, you might get hurt. But there's some females who can whoop males. But under the law, they can use deadly force before a male can use deadly force, and it's understandable because they are of the weaker gender. We talk about their body, not their mental ability or capabilities, anything like that. So realize that. Now, also, item B. They're going to consider also item B for to make sure this was a legal incident. All right, you're legal, justified using force only if item B is also present. And this says this: the facts and circumstances prompting your belief would cause a person of ordinary firmness to believe deadly force was necessary to prevent an imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. Let's take each word apart because it's very important. They're going to look at facts. What are facts? Things that can be corroborated. Things that are real, not your opinion, not what you thought, not what you fantasized. They're going to look at facts. That's all that matters in the court of law are actual facts. Hard things you can actually reduplicate. And circumstances prompting that belief. They're going to weigh your situation with its own set of facts and circumstances. Each situation is uniquely different. Uniquely different. I had a young man in my class recently, and he was at a store. I won't call his name on the store, sitting in his car, waiting for a person to come out of the store, and it was a woman, had both windows down. Well, two people came to his car, one on the driver's side, one on the passenger's side with knives, and reached in and started trying to murder him with knives. He was being cut severely. He still carries scars on his neck and face to this day. But he was a legal carrier of a firearm. He produced a firearm and used deadly force, and those two people were eliminated. They are now dead. So he killed two suspects to save his life. He never spent one night in jail because the security cameras exonerated the story and eyewitnesses exonerated the story. So the facts and circumstances make sure that he was a clear victim in this situation. Now, your situation may not be that clear cut, but this was very clear cut. He never spent one night even in jail because of the facts and circumstances surrounding that case. Now, but those facts and circumstances cause a person of ordinary firmness to believe deadly force was necessary. Again, they're alluding to a reasonable person. Most of you in the audience now would agree that what that man did was reasonable, and you have done the very same thing because you are a reasonable person also. So with that in mind, those facts and circumstances made it legal for him to use deadly force. They use a term here also that says a person of ordinary firmness. What does that mean? Someone who's reasonable, they're mature, they can make decisions by themselves, don't have any mental health issues, their mind is not altered by drugs or anything else. Mental firmness. Firmness is a mental health term. If your mind is infirm, you don't have the ability to make reasonable decisions and rational decisions, especially under duress. So, do you believe deadly force was necessary so you met that second hurdle? Let's look at item C. So you're still being scrutinized now. After you use your deadly force, see if your force was legal. And you must meet all four requirements here in this chain. You break one of these links, you are illegal. Item C says this: the citizen using deadly force was not the instigator or aggressor who voluntarily provoked, entered, or controlled the conflict leading to deadly force. Let's watch this one. Because some of y'all in my audience, I can see you right now, some of y'all are hot-headed. Some of y'all don't take no mess off nobody. Somebody's going to respect you. And if they use the wrong word or cuss you, you're going to go to their behinds. I'm telling you, that is not the right attitude to have. The person using the force was not the instigator. If you're the person who goes around instigating trouble, or you are the aggressor who voluntarily provoked, entered, continued the conflict, you will be in trouble. Let me say this. If you intentionally go where you know danger is with your weapon, knowing that a conflict would probably result from your being there, you've lost your innocence by going to that location with your weapon. You've lost your innocence. And then if you initiate the process by word or action that leads up to a use of deadly force, then you will probably be charged with a homicide for sure. And even if you started it, but let me say this though, this may not sound right to you, but if you do instigate, you enter a conflict, you are the aggressor in the conflict, but so far it is a simple assault, and it escalates to where weapons are introduced, or somebody's being seriously injured, to where deadly force is necessary to defend yourself, and you use deadly force to defend yourself, because at any point, though you started it, you instigated it, that your life is in danger, your right to use deadly force is restored to you in the middle of that fight. You can use deadly force. This is exactly what happened in the Trayvon Martin case that people don't want to hear about. But let's say that Trayvon Martin was an innocent person, had not broken any law, was not armed or anything else, and Zimmerman was the aggressor. He stalked him, he drove beside him, he produced a dangerous situation. Trayvon was in danger for his life as far as he knew. He didn't know this man. The man had no authority or anything else. At some point, Zimmerman, emboldened by having a weapon, got out of that car. Him and that boy got into a physical altercation that he lost. All right, so Trayvon was seen on top of him by a witness and by a statement from Zimmerman on top of him, banging his head on the ground, MMA style. His life was in danger because Zimmerman says he was going to reach for his gun to defend himself. And while he reached for it, Trayvon also was going for his gun. So that made a deadly force encounter. So when he shot Trayvon, it was a legal shooting, I'm sorry to say. And no need making a racial incident out of it necessarily. He was shot legally because at the point where Zimmerman's life was in danger, and he had stitches in the back of his head in court, showing that his head was banged on the ground awfully hard. So Trayvon was shot legally. Now, what led up to it was not legal. So Zimmerman could not be charged with first or second degree murder at all. But it was a homicide, but it would have to be a manslaughter charge or a lesser homicide charge, but not murder at all. And we need to be technical about this and not get off on the emotion so quickly or race so quickly. So you ended the conflict also too, and you continued it. At any point, someone that you're conflicting with, either fighting with, demonstrate a want to disengage, you must allow them to do so. Don't be like some friends of mine have heard say, no, buddy, you started, I'm going to finish it. You bought the ticket, now you're going to see the whole show, buddy. That's a bad attitude to have, because if it's caught on camera, that person tried to disengage or de-escalate, and you did not allow them to, and you went on to use deadly force, you're going to be liable for that. So be aware of those two things. Now, so far, items A, B, and C, you're so far in the clear, you're not going to jail. All right, let's see if D will put you in jail, all right? And we hope it does not. D says this: the force used was not excessive. The force used was not excessive. So you used force, the force was legal. Now, what makes it excessive? Let me say this. I would ask you, do you have the right to shoot to kill anyone? And this may sound strange to you, but the answer is a resounding no. Then why do you use deadly force? You use it to, listen very carefully, this is very deep, stop the threat and no more. To stop the threat. Once the threat is stopped, you have no more right to use deadly force. Once the threat is stopped, you must stop using deadly force. If you go past that, you're now entering into excessive force. But not just intentionally trying to kill someone. And some instructors would tell their students this: you find somebody in your house, shoot to kill him. Make sure he's dead before law enforcement gets there. That is illegal advice. You never quote me as saying that. All right? Now, excessive force can also be how many times you shot someone. If you shot them and they've stopped them posing a threat, you keep shooting, you are illegal. Also, it may deal with also what you shot them with. Sometimes it can be, I had my 22, had my 25, my 32, my 38, my 380, but I chose a 50 caliber Desert Eagle with a 300 grain ballistic tip, hollow point Teflon coated bullet that I'm not allowed to even own. I use that to defend myself with, and that does tremendous bone and tissue damage on that person. If they survive, you may have a lawsuit civilly on your hands for using the wrong ammo to stop somebody with. And now you got to deal with that. So what you shoot them with, how many times you shoot them, where you shot them at, may be a case for excessive force. Now we want you to shoot, we teach you to shoot normally under duress, center of mass. There's also a myth that, well, law enforcement always shoots to kill. That is not true. They're trained to shoot center mass because that's where most of the vitals are, where you're most likely to stop someone at. Why would I aim for your leg and you got a gun on me and cause you to shoot me through a reflex action? I want to stop you from shooting me or hitting anybody else by shutting your body down. And you do that by engaging multiple organs and structural parts of the body so you cannot retaliate. And you do that until the threat is eliminated. How many times can you shoot someone? Well, how many times do they need to be shot? That doesn't sound right, does it? But you shoot them until the threat is eliminated. If I shoot you 2 times and say back out and get out of my house, and you don't, you keep coming toward me, I will shoot you some more. I'll keep shooting until the threat is eliminated. Please get there and say, Mr. Williams, you shot the man 15 times. Why did you shoot him 15 times? He posed a threat 15 times. That's why. And when he stopped posing a threat, I stopped shooting. And that's the answer. You have never admit you tried to kill anyone, or you're glad that they are deceased. Do not ever express that you're illegal if you did that. Once you shoot someone and they're down, they're not posing a threat, do not execute them as some instructors wrongly tell you to do in your house. Now, let's talk about this term called retreat. Now, under the old North Carolina law, some of you have heard the saying, if you shoot somebody in your house or somebody in your yard and you shoot them, make sure they're dead before the police get there. Oh, it's a classic. It's a classic. But let me tell you what, under the old retreat law, this thing worked this way here. If someone was in your yard posing a threat to you and your family, by law, that's a handgun now, you're supposed to retreat back into your house, safe to your home, with your family and your handgun, and they come to that door trying to come into your house, and they're trying to break your door down, you're going to call 911, of course, get law enforcement on their way. But if they're trying to bust in that door, you're supposed to retreat to a back room of your house with your weapon and your family and barricade yourself in that room. If they break into your house, they're in the front room, they haven't come to that second barrier, you're not to come out to engage them. You're supposed to stay in there. If they come to that second barrier, now at that point you can use deadly force against that person in your own home. Because they're already in your home and they're fair game to realize that you will be injured seriously, raped, or sexually assaulted, or be killed. You have a right to expect that because someone who breaks down your door are not coming for a prayer meeting. Is that clear to you? You have a right to feel in threat and your family and to defend them with whatever force is necessary. Now, let me say this. You're supposed to retreat if you can. So, if they come in that second door and you can retreat out the back door of your house safely, you might consider that option because it's up to you if you want to consider the option because they come in that door, you run a liability of shooting them, but also you come out of your house, run a liability of them having partners out there also. So I would advise you not to do that, but by law, if you can retreat safely, technically you're supposed to retreat safely. But I advise you do not retreat into a darkened environment. You don't know how many suspects are out there and endanger your family further. Defend that place where you are with deadly force. So under the new castle doctrine now, you don't have a duty to retreat anymore. Someone who breaks into your home illegally, you have a right to assume that they're there to harm you, injure you seriously, or sexually assault you, and you have a right to be afraid for your life or your family's life. Now, also let me say this, because some people always use this question. Suppose they turn around and try to leave. Can I shoot them in the back? Again, is there an imminent threat anymore? If they leave and turn their back to you, there's no more imminent threat. Now, scenario, if they're going down to hall toward where your loved ones are who are not with you, they pose a threat to your loved one. That may be a situation where you want to use deadly force and can justify shooting them anywhere you can to stop them, including in the back. If they're going to pose a threat to your loved ones down the hall going away from you, you must be able to articulate that. Other than that, and short of that, let them leave from your house. If there's no more imminent threat, they turn their back on you, let them leave. Also, the term says imminent danger, imminent danger. These terms are very important. You must understand these terms in order to function with your weapon properly and be able to articulate why you did what you did. Immediate harm means this, imminent harm means this, immediate danger. It's about to happen. It's about to go down. Unless you intervene, it's about to happen. That's what imminent means. It's got to be present or you cannot use deadly force. Great bodily harm is what? Includes things like substantial risk of death that causes serious permanent disfigurement, coma, permanent or protracted condition, causes extreme pain, permanent or protracted loss or impairment of function of any body member or organ, or that results in prolonged hospitalization. There are two kinds of assaults. There's a felonious assault, then there's a simple assault. It's a simple assault as long as no one gets seriously injured and no weapons are involved. And the very second a weapon is introduced, it becomes a felonious assault. Or you be injured with great bodily harm, that is a felonious assault. You can stop that assault using deadly force. Not only on yourself or on somebody else who is in a position being injured or killed or hurt, who have not put in that position as a result of illegal behavior. Sexual assault, I've explained that, includes rape, sexual offenses. Deadly force can be used to stop someone from being raped, all right, but not just for every sexual assault. It's got to be rape and rape alone. We're going to move on from there. Excessive force, the citizen's right in self-defense to use only such force as reasonably appears necessary under the circumstances to protect him or her from death or great bodily harm. Determine the amount of force necessary, and in order to avoid excessive force, the citizen should consider things like what? Size, age, strength of the citizen as compared to the attacker, the fierceness of the assault. If anyone upon the citizen, whether the attacker posed a weapon or reputation of attacker for danger and violence, any other circumstance relevant to this issue. What does that boil down to in real words? If you know Big Bob been in prison 10 times for assault and battery, you know he's a wife beater, he's been in there for sexual assault, he's been in there for endangering folks' lives with weapons, and he's a hot temper, and he's going to assault you, you must consider those situations. He outweighs you by 200 pounds. He's not inhibited about hurting you. He has a history of that kind of thing. That person is a danger to you, and you're a female especially, or you have reduced strength, such as you're handicapped, you have diminished strength, you're elderly. Those type things will make that a very much of a danger to you. And there's a disparity of size and strength in that situation. So it can be a situation for excessive force. Move right along. Can you use deadly force to defend other people? Deadly force in defense of others. A citizen may intervene and use deadly force in defense of another person when, under the facts and circumstances, it's reasonably necessary, appears to be, to save the other person from imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault, but only to the extent the other person was entitled to use deadly force in self-defense. Excessive force in defense of others is not allowed, and neither the intervener, nor the person threatened can be an instigator who voluntarily provoked or entered the conflict that led to deadly force. So again, bottom line is, if they're engaging in any illegal activity, then you cannot intervene with deadly force to save that person. They must be doing something that is totally legal and not instigating a crime. And some things are not what they always appear. Let's say you walk upon a situation, you see two people, one with a weapon, one with not a weapon, and you tell the person to drop the gun, they don't, and you shoot that person. And the crowd says, oh my goodness, Mr. Williams, you just shot the innocent person. He had just took the gun from that person on the ground, holding that gun until the police got here, and you shot an innocent person. I can't call that bullet back, people. Again, let me say this. Sometimes the best course of action for you is not to try to be a vigilante or do law enforcement's job, but take your cover, be a good witness, call 911, and let them intervene physically in that situation. And do not intervene with your deadly force unless you have more detail that you just saw somebody with a gun in their hands, not knowing the rest of the story. Let's talk about also when deadly force cannot be used. When it cannot be used, very important. You learn when it can be used, but how about when it cannot be used? It's also very important. Let me say this. Some of you, and I can tell, one of you sitting over now with your hairdo, I can tell that you're the kind of person, once you get your gun, you're going to go through a complete metamorphosis. Some folks go through the change, they get a weapon, they walk a little different. They got a little more of a swagger to them. And they want something to kick off so they can use a gun to defend themselves. I had one old lady sitting in the house tell me, Mr. Williams, when I was sitting in my house last night with my 45 in my hand, I wish somebody would break in that door. I just wish they would break in that door. I got something for them. I wish they would come on in that door. I got something for you. Wrong attitude. So again, make it a last resort. Hope you never have to use it. It's kind of like any other emergency tool you have. You got a tire jack. You may never use it for 20 years, but when you need it, there's nothing like having that tire jack. Or your fire extinguisher the same way. It's good to have it. If you never need it, it's fine. Your handgun is the same way, people. You don't have to use it. Do not use it. But now let's say when you cannot use deadly force. You can't use deadly force to stop a simple assault. Now, felonious assault, you get seriously injured and weapons involved. A simple assault, there's no weapon involved. Also, no serious injury. Yeah, you may wind up with a little hair out of place, and mascara's running, a little fat lip, a little bloody nose, a little scuffed kneecap, messed your good sneakers up, broke your watch, you broke your chain. That's not serious injury. You can't use deadly force because of those type things. So you can't do it because of a simple assault. You lost the fight, go home, learn your lesson, don't bother that person again, all right? It's a simple assault. You can't use deadly force because you lost the fight, even though it was very embarrassing in front of your girl or your favorite man. You look weak, you don't want to be punked out. No reason to use deadly force. Also, because of violent language. No one likes to be the victim or the receiver of violent language. Let me tell you a Bible verse that says this. The Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers, they be called the children of God. It also says, don't be soon angry. Don't be soon angry. Don't be swift to shed innocent blood. It also says, he that rules his own spirit is better than he that takes a city. So again, have self-control. Don't be hot-headed. If you're a hothead, do not buy a gun and have it with you if you're a hothead. Because in your life, if it hadn't happened already, you're going to have some violent language directed at you, and you're going to have to do the mature thing when it is. Now, I've had jobs where it was part of my occupation. It was occupational hazard to be cussed out on a regular basis and not take it to heart. You work inside of a prison for 12 and a half years, and you'll get cussed at some point. They'll use racial slurs and everything else, and you can't lose your job because somebody uses a racial slur towards you. Also, you're going to be called all kinds of things in your job that are unflattering. You're going to have to be professional enough not to respond to it negatively. I will give you, it says this, violent language often leads to violent acts, but language alone does not justify deadly force. But he cussed me out and called me and told me he was going to kick my whatever. That's not a reason for deadly force. Now, let me give you a situation that actually happened to me in a jail. And I'm going to tell you the situation, and do not laugh. I can tell when you're laughing, even through this screen. If you laugh, I can tell. So I don't laugh at my situation here. I had just come back to work on a Monday morning. So the inmate who just got into jail that weekend didn't know who I was. So me and my lieutenant were walking through the bars where the inmates were, and he saw me. He decided to attack me verbally to prove his manhood in front of his inmate buddies. So he looked at me, and listen carefully what he said to me. It was very unkind, and I was quite traumatized by it. Looked at me and says, you black, square-headed, Bart Simpson looking, James Evans looking, SOB. Everybody got quiet. I'm looking at him and oh my God, this man cussed me out. And he's waiting, I'm waiting, everybody's waiting. I said, Lord, how should I handle this? I said, I love you too. I got a sense of humor, folks. He said, you crazy. Came and shook my hand, it was over with. All right? So, got back to the office, Lieutenant Smith says, you know, Ted, you can't get mad at the guy. I said, why is that, Lieutenant Smith? Well, the man told the truth. What do you mean told the truth? Well, you are black. Okay, all right, black. You do have a square head, Mr. Williams. And some of you all are saying the same thing. You're out there chuckling right now. And I have a square head. I got a square head, okay? So 2 out of 4 ain't bad. Well, no. You could resemble Bart Simpson if you look at an angle. And also, you might resemble James Evans, which is not a bad thing. So you should have got mad at the guy. He told the truth on you. So again, sometimes have a sense of humor. Don't take everything to heart people say to you. Laugh at yourself sometimes and get out of the situation without grabbing for your weapon. Again, you can't use deadly force just because of violent language alone. It is not.